I'm just so honored to be here,
I
in this
I'm not
prestigious
either.
blog.
Cause we like we don't hang out. I don't hang out very often with the Cutting Mat Discord, and I really need to some of these days.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't really either. I shied away for a long time. While I was unemployed, I kind of knew that if I fell too hard into it, I would not like actively try to find work and stuff. Like it's definitely a comfort zone for those like us, right? Gang, gang.
Yeah,
So yeah, um, it's definitely like it was one of those things where I haven't built like I built Gunpla this week for the first time in honestly 18 months,
ooh,
and I built 4 kits this week.
oh, you're very fond of it. That's
I
snazzy.
I got back into it, and I'm just trying to kind of have some fun. So,
I get
I
it.
yeah, it's cool.
I love it. But you know what's even better?
What is even better?
Gunpla with friends. Everybody.
That's right. That makes it a whole lot better, right?
I'm not building. I'm gooping snails.
You're gooping on that snail. Oh, give
I'm
me a close up on that boy. Let me give me a. You know that I'm a snail lover myself. I'm a friend of the snail. What a beautiful baby that is. All gooped up with nowhere to go.
the lad.
I
Truly. Oh,
the
really?
absolute lad.
He's going into a back of a petite bear guy.
Of course he is.
Because I took a hammer and I like hammered him with the head of a bear. We're gruesome. It was a gruesome process, but
Hey, I mean, but you got to where you needed to get. So
sometimes you just have to bash in a bear guy.
sometimes you have to bash in the bear. That's exactly right.
Yep.
I am currently doing a cool reverse wash on my Beyblade launcher.
Oh, snazzy.
Yeah. Uh, I don't know. So like I don't know. I hit it with some Gundam markers, and because they're alcohol based, you can kind of like do a little bit of that kind of like thinner, kind of like reverse wash, like you're doing like a panel line and you fill in a space with it. So that's pretty cool with it. Um, but yeah, I today I built a Gundam artifact Hainu. Look, the absolute lad.
What'll do? I just ordered two of the artifact nightingales.
That tracks. That makes sense. I can't wait to see what kind of insanity you do with that.
I don't know what I'm gonna do to the little guys because we're just little dudes.
You'll figure it out, right? But they're little bitty babies.
We're just little babies.
You know what I'm doing for my build for the kids? Actually, I'll show you what I'm doing for my build for the kids. Hot off the streets. Hot off the streets. I'm repainting my 1994 Bandai Dragon Dagger.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, my and it works. Like it's got the speaker in it and everything, and I'm yeah, like I sacrificed it to the gods. My
We agree.
buddy, yeah, my buddy printed me a cool base for it and stuff. So that's my project for the kids. So I have to finish that in the next week or so.
I know. I gotta. Well, the 16th. You gotta
Oh,
finish.
16th. Okay. I thought that it was due on the 1st, and I was like, okay, this is Fool's Day business right here.
I have to finish mine.
Well,
I
it's
have.
your event.
I have one snail painted.
Well, hey, look, my snail says patience. So that's what we're doing here. We're just being patient. You're going with the flow. You're just sliming along. You're gooping it up along the way, and that's the lifestyle, dude. We don't make the rules. We just live the life.
Snail pace. All right.
Take your time. You'll get there.
Speaking of time and taking time, I think this leads us to our first question.
Let's do it.
Where are you from, and how does that affect your work?
I am from mid Michigan, a city called Bay City, and it's kind of it's like in the think this is geographically correct. I'm not sure which direction because the camera's flipping it and stuff, but I live in this little bit of webbing that not everybody has in their hand. And that is, it's not too far from Flint, which you may know from their water crisis. And it's not too far from Saginaw and Midland, in like the Tri-City area where I'm from, is a big, there's two things about it that kind of do impact my work, right? And I think the first thing is that it's a big port town, and historically it's a big port town in Michigan where it has like a lot of cultural significance for like the lumber yards and like the kind of when Chicago was a big booming metropolis, when it was kind of like the first kind of major city in the Midwest, like before the fire or anything like that. It was kind of a big booming city in that way, right? So because of that, there's like a lot of like maritime history down there, and like I really like to go to like the Maritime Museum when I was younger. Got to see tall ships and stuff like that. So I had like this kind of love for the scale, right? Like very early, and I didn't really care about boats or planes or cars or anything in specific, but like that was being able to see weathering in real life, like, was relevant early, right? It was something that was like an aesthetic that I clung to. And the other thing that's relevant is that it's a hugely automotive area, right? So the automotive industry came and left, and kind of left like a huge amount of misfortune. And it's, my hometown's really not doing too well. God bless them, but it's not the best place in the world to be right now, I would say. There's a lot of progress happening there, which is really cool. People are investing. I hope for the right reasons, but at least it's happening, and that's cool to see. But because of that, there's a lot of like, there's a lot of the automotive scar on the world there, right? So like whether that's like huge highway systems or urban areas or like the actual gunk and grime that comes with like being in Detroit, and like the physical effect of the auto industry being based out of that area, like it's very visible, right? So because of that, I think that I always gravitate to like a real setting that's kind of feels like that, like a lived in setting. And it doesn't have to be grungy, and it doesn't have to be post-apocalyptic and whatever, nothing like that necessarily, but it has to look lived in. So because of that, I kind of am fanatical about making sure they get my reference. And like, when I did my Cerulean project this year, I did a diorama for a little diner that's near Chicago, like a hot dog restaurant near Chicago. It's a real place. And like I tagged them on Instagram, and they were like, "What?" Shout out Gene and Jude's. Double dog, pickles, peppers, and fries. That's my order at Gene and Jude's. But like I went out there and shot photos of the side of the building and stuff so that the air conditioner looked real when I built it. And it didn't matter to anybody but me, because I didn't even take photos of that. Like I didn't even it didn't even matter. It's just like it was relevant to me. So I would say that like being from that area definitely affects my work. And it definitely, whether it's tonally or it's geographic. Like I also did one of my dioramas that I did for Pride a couple months ago was I think you may have actually seen this. It's like a pickup truck with two guys in a garage with a dog, and it's a Pride diorama that's just kind of I called it "It's Not Much But It's Ours," and it's just like it's a couple, and it's like a Detroit story, and there's like a Detroit Tigers, like the Tiger Stadium blueprint on the wall and stuff in their garage, and like made like little family photos and stuff. But it's all the way down to like what do homes look like in that area and the suburbs and whatever. Like I care about that stuff, so I definitely want to make sure that I never leave that out of my work ever. Even if it's mecha stuff, I try to bring that sort of thing through.
I love it. I absolutely adore that, and as I stated multiple times during multiple interviews, it's like one of my favorite questions. Because much like Detroit, where I grew up, when was very much a factory city.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very, very shoemaker. Walk the shoemaker factories, walk just the gunk and the grime that come along with it. We're very urbanized now, and that's where I get a lot of my more urban themed paintings, especially with the colors and stuff. Because a lot of the restoration they're trying to do is involving the youth in doing graffiti art.
I can definitely see that like showing up in your work lately too. Like, I think it's cool that like what's happening around you is showing up directly in your work, and I always love to see like the way that you translate your world into your work because it's always direct.
And I appreciate the kind words because you can see it with like when I moved to New Hampshire. Because now instead of urban jungle, the concrete jungle, I am now surrounded by physical forests
Right,
and nature. So like it's always a fun way of blending the two of them together
right.
to get that cool, urban colors, but also the nature tone. Because both are equally, I don't want to say not impactful, but they both play a part in shaping me. Because I'm gonna tell you, 7 years ago you wouldn't see me in a forest. You wouldn't see me in nature. I was strictly a city person. But now, as soon as spring hit, I'm out looking for mushrooms.
Yeah, because that's the version of you that I know, right? So like, it's hard for me to imagine a version of you that isn't like a druid, you know, for and
And it,
everything that comes with being a druid too, you know.
and like it's so funny because we moved up here, and one of the classes I had to take in high school was wilderness survival, and I didn't per se get a choice of a matter. They had to throw me in an elective.
So why not give her a boot knife?
Yep. So, but like the first week we spent prepping, and then next week outdoor shelters. And I had gotten done with my work, and he's like, "Take a nap outside." What? He's like, "Go in your shelter, take a nap. We still got 3 hours." And I did, and I swear at that moment, then I'm like, wait a minute, I can fuck with this.
Like, I could get used to everything about this situation.
I literally bear style crawled into my den, took one of the best fucking naps I had,
There you
and then
go.
I'm like, game changer, boom, forest, we're in it.
And then it's been goblin mode ever since.
Yep, straight from urban goblin to forest goblin.
That's right. That's right.
Neat ecosystem change. This is what Darwin said when he said survival of the fittest.
That's exactly right.
Transition to goblins.
That's right. Who will you become? Right. Which version of goblin will you become?
Yep.
What is
Some
your
people
lower
say it's
nature?
a goblin. Then some people go to like home goods goblin, where it's not too city, but it's not too forest, but it's perfectly white.
Home goods goblin.
Like the suburbs goblin, where it's a nice little cozy
The
stuff.
TJ Maxx goblin.
I went straight to forest. Stop. I saw my first mushroom, and I'm like, this is a game changer. What's up?
I fuck with this big time. I fuck with it heavy. Let's go, mushrooms. Let's go. I mean, well, I'll tell you that's kind of what happened to me too, right? Because I went from I will say that like my hometown was a pretty small city, but I wasn't necessarily in a rural area. I was just kind of on the edge of between a small city and an urban, like a rural area. Um, but I worked in the next city over, and when I finally moved to Chicago, I spent like 15 years in the city, right? In like you said, in the city. Like Chicago is a whole different fucking kind of city, right? Like it's a different animal. And I've lived in a bunch of different neighborhoods there, and I've seen a bunch of shit there, and I've had my car broken into multiple times there. It's just I love it. It's perfect and it's amazing. And I got really used to being there. And then I moved out to the suburbs and I became a suburbs goblin. And the weird thing is, the real benefit I got is this motherfucker's got a whole bunch of forest preserves, my guy. So I get to go doing all kinds of goofy like nature sound recording and like I bought binoculars so I could look at birds. Like I am out here, and the coolest thing is that the dog park out here is actually a forest preserve. So I kind of had the same thing where it's like the second I got out here, my wife was like, "Hey, we we don't have a fence. We can't be letting the dog in the backyard at night. There's coyotes. And I was like, okay, I got you. I see. I understand. Established coyotes. We got it. I know what because where I grew up, it was like really common to have like deer through the backyard, which I'm sure you have all the time. Moose and all kinds of shit up there.
New Hampshire, we have everything.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how my location affects my work.
And like, I love it because you can see the transition in me from inner city, because Lynn is what I consider one of the most inner city areas of New England.
Okay.
Like, of course, Worcester and Boston, and there's all that parts of Mass, which are a little more sketchier. But you kind of got it right in the middle. But to see someone who detested nature in a span of like 4 or 5 months go approaching wild animals like I was fucking Steve. If you had asked me when I was 17 a month before we moved up here, if I would walk up to a possum and try and barehand it, I would have told you to fuck off and that you were weird. But now, every time there's a possum in my backyard, which we all know there's a lot, there's like fucking 9 of them, I will trump up like I'm Steve Irwin approaching a gator.
We're just gonna wrestle this possum.
Yeah. I mean, bring a bobcat up over the hill. We have this white uphill. Went out there looking for it. No calls.
Go find me a bobcat.
Friend tape. Let's go.
Fuck around and find out.
Yep.
Nothing better to do.
No, nothing better to do, especially in New Hampshire.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, you know what? I'm gonna go fight God. We're gonna go find out.
In fact, that's what we would have turned into. And people don't realize that. They don't. They look at artists and they're like, yeah, that's cool, but they don't go deep into figuring out how someone's environment crucially impacts it. Look like a fucking biology project. You gotta look at it under a microscope.
Well, it makes it more interesting when you do, right? I mean, I think that it's okay for people to not necessarily always look under the hood, right? But I think that it's always more fun for people who have that level of curiosity, right? Like, I think that there are with anybody who's into any hobby or any kind of art form, ultimately, I think that like your level of depth that you want to get into it kind of determines how much fun you're willing to have with it. If you're just casual about it, then you shouldn't expect to get the full thing. That's okay. Not everybody has to have it.
I'm like Darwin looking at finches.
Finches, eh?
Why you have a short beak.
What's the next question on the interview, Johnlyn?
Tell me about your favorite medium.
Well, I usually wear an extra large.
Put on a medium and a white crop top.
Bro, I would look like a fucking sausage casing if I had a medium shirt on right now. You would look like you shrink wrap me, right? Like, no, but my favorite medium, honestly, right now, I think my favorite medium is probably miniatures. I'm really enjoying painting miniatures lately. The scale challenge has been a lot of fun. My buddy Corey, shout out Corey. He's a big fan of the vlog, so he's definitely going to see this. Wretched Goat, you've probably seen him around before. He's a sculptor and stuff. Yeah, he's the homie. But he refers to it as pain scale. He refers to like D&D and like, Warhammer stuff as pain scale. And I agreed with that for a really long time because I came into the hobby through 1144 kits, right? So like I was kind of used to that, and I went to airbrushing really early. I didn't really spend any time rattle canning stuff. I wasn't satisfied with the finish, so I just invested and bought it, like learned how to airbrush. And because of that, I spent a lot of time doing model kits. and I was really intimidated by brush painting because I have no fine arts background. I went to an arts college, but I went to like a for-profit loan farm, like this one of the schools that got sued and has to pay everybody back for their tuition schools. Shout out the art institutes. But you know, I mean, I think that like I don't have any fine arts background, right? So like learning how to paint things by hand with a brush was really challenging for me, and it was really intimidating for me to like share works in progress, and that is why I got so active in the Cutting Mat podcast Discord. Shout out the Cutting Mat podcast. Shout out Yenshin Toys, gang gang. But being active in that group with like Phil and all those other homies, you know, like really helped me level up my miniature painting game. And even more than anything else, like Logan, again, shout out Logan, but like Logan, the absolute king, right? He was super instrumental in me getting into painting miniatures because he's so fearless. And you know, he's just sent me shoe boxes full of failed prints and stuff just to practice, you know, just to practice painting. So I really like that medium right now. I really like the amount of detail that you can pack into it. I'm really into the GW look right now, like the kind of the general like Age of Sigmar, like the new Zine shit is totally badass. But like I'm just very into that aesthetic style, like Ninjon and Miniac and all that stuff. I feel like I've really been enjoying consuming a lot of that content. But I've been painting, like, I guess more than anything, Sofubi is probably my favorite medium, because I think it's I mean, there's a zillion Sofubi within the frame of this, you know, of this. This was actually from my Cerulean project.
But he's on a pile of Sofubi, like what a chair is on. His whole floor is nothing but Sofubi toys.
That's the life, dude.
It's a nasty smog, but with the toys.
Yeah, I mean, I got a Blobpuss right here. Like, I mean, I'm literally surrounded with. If you fuck with Sofubi, you fuck with it heavy. That's all there is to it. But like, but I love the medium because it's really expressive. It's really free. I think like Joel actually really helped me understand that the medium of Sofubi, it kind of doesn't play by the rules of any of the other mediums other than like art toys. And that's when I kind of realized like, oh, this is not different from painting like Kid Robot stuff or like blank, you know, like blank art toys. So or you know, because what's different from a Gargamel toy versus a Kid Robot toy, the size, you know what I mean, like the shape of the model. So ultimately Sofubi is a lot of fun, and I think it's my favorite thing to paint. But lately I prefer to do hand painting stuff for recreational work, and that's been a lot of fun.
I feel that.
Yeah,
because I've been looking at a lot of the Sofubi stuff you and Joel have been doing, and I'm like, I'm interested.
I think that it's a next logical step for you, honestly, but it is a like almost airbrush required hobby, and that is a challenge to you. And by that I mean, prove me wrong about that. But the reason that that's the case in a lot of cases with Sofubi stuff is because the actual material that the plastic is made of does not play nice with a lot of acrylic paints. Like water-based stuff falls right off of it because it's soft vinyl, right? And like in order to disassemble a Godzilla or Ultraman toy to paint it in the first place, you have to hit it with a heat gun or put it underwater, like hot water, so that it's soft and pliable, because that's how they put it together at the factory, you know, with a hair dryer. So you got to be careful with the medium you use, and I'm sure that if anybody can find a way to do Sofubi different, it's going to be you. And I can't wait to see what kind of horrifying shit you breached through the event horizon with that.
I did a Godzilla figure. I did a Shin Godzilla figure.
When did you do Shin?
Where's Shin Godzilla? Where'd the boy go?
I love Shin Godzilla.
He is around. What did I do? A lot of shit on these. idea where he is right now. I was looking at him the whole entire time. Gotta dust him off.
What a beautiful angel. Oh my god. Isn't he beautiful?
But by for sheer dumb luck, I don't know why, but I used the Vallejo primer and it stuck.
Huh. Like you brush primed it?
No, I airbrushed it with Vallejo primer.
Oh, okay. Dude, I've never been able to shoot that shit out of my airbrush. I have to brush prime things with a. You must have used like a automotive airbrush.
People get so mad when I say Vallejo primer, but I have had like zip issues with it.
You know what? I'm glad someone had good luck with Vallejo primer. So good for you. Good for you.
It's the only one I really use.
Yeah.
And like that
What?
died too off the wall.
You are an insane person. That's crazy.
But I hit the lad with Turbo Dark afterwards. Because this is all Turbo Dark. And
Oh, interesting.
Perpetual dog fur because I'm terrible at dusting. The lad.
Is that like a Playmates face, like a hard plastic, or is it Sofubi?
I think it's more soft. I mean,
Is it like one of the squishy hollow ones?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, now you got me wanting to try it with Turbo Dorks and stuff. I mean, did you have to like put 2,000 layers of clear coat on that? I'm just astonished. Like I've never heard of anybody having that good of luck with like a Godzilla toy with just acrylic water-based paints.
I can squeeze it in.
Okay, I stand corrected in my statement. I've never had good luck putting water-based paints on them, and I tried really hard. I had a bunch of Turbo Dork stuff that I tried to shoot on some of the toys that I mailed for season 1 of the Yenshin Toys release. Shout out Yenshin Toys. But season 1 toys, I had to repaint 2/3 of that stuff because I painted it with acrylic paints, and before I could even mail it out to Joel, a lot of it had flaked or had peeled.
Wow.
Yeah. So congratulations. I'm happy to hear that worked out. I mean, I don't trust myself enough to try it again with those. I'm just gonna stick with my SMS paints, but
like I did hit it with the top coat. I did use the Montana Gold.
Okay.
As per that has become my official top coat of the year because rattle can or not, that is a durable coat. Like I have a Haro that I literally threw it around. Like this thing has hit a wall multiple times, and the top coat is still. I don't know if you can hear me tapping.
Wow.
But this thing is like durable.
That's impressive. I'm gonna have to try it. They sell that at the our stores near my house, so I'll have to check it out. I mean, I know that Logan also backs a lot of Montana stuff. I used to do stencil art here and there, and I would use Montana cans for that, but I would never say that I like knew what I was doing in that medium.
My Michael's got Montana cans in, and I'm never going to financially recover.
Oh no.
And like that's such a controversial take in the hobby, but I have like a whole upper bookshelf with nothing but rattle cans.
I mean, I don't think that's a hot take. Doesn't VFX Viper use rattle cans or something? Like I remember Phil told me somebody who like was GBWC champion or something did it with rattle cans.
It's more common, but it's still people still get marginally upset over it.
Die mad.
I know, and that's what I go with now is just die mad because I'm so happy because I took them all down today and I shook them up for the first time of the season. Cause it's time.
It's time, baby. Let's go.
It's not spring anymore. It's not spring. It's rattle can season.
That's right. That's right. The humidity is right. Welcome to rattle can season, baby.
We're out of mud season. We're into rattle cans. Speaking of things that we enjoy, it leads us on to our next question.
Yeah.
What tools are crucial to you?
Hmm. Well, I think I was prepared for this question. I actually like grabbed my favorite things earlier, and I was like, I want to be ready for my interview. The things that are most crucial to me are in this box, and I kind of keep stuff like this near my desk all the time. So the first is like a good pair of scissors. These particular Fiskars ones, these were like $19 scissors, but here's why they're so dope. First of all, as you can see, if you need a cold one, you can access the cold one with the opener there on it. But the blades separate, and you can use this one as it's like a pretty good knife, like a box cutter or knife, and this one has has an edge on it, so you can like cut foam and stuff with it. Like it's kind of awesome. Like they're fantastic. So I'm not sure what the shears are technically for, but I love these. Um, Very specifically, USA Gundam Store hobby knives, because I like the little tiny boy blades. This is the real shit right here.
Baby boys.
Yeah, this is the real stuff right here. Specifically, these Mr. Hobby nippers. If I'm building a scale model or clipping miniatures off, if anything off a sprue, but even when I'm doing like dioramas and stuff like that, like these things are indestructible, and I like to sharpen the blade. Like I've replaced these once since I started the hobby a few years ago, so I'm really happy to hear that. And I mean, I've gone through a lot of the premium nippers and stuff, but what I like the most about these is that they are durable like a cheaper pair, but they're really, really, really clean. Like I could probably afford to get myself a new pair now because these have some pretty gnar. Yeah, these have some wear on them, but I love these boys, like little utility knives. The smaller ones, I find they're easier to use, easier to maneuver, whether it's foam or whatever. Because I almost don't do anything, as you know, without doing a diorama for it. I never just paint something, right? Like that never, and I don't snap build anything because I don't enjoy the process of snap building things. So always have diorama type stuff. Toothpicks are endlessly useful. Always have like a brush of some sort to clean off whatever I'm working on. If I'm sanding, glass file, which just fell off my desk, so I'm not going to make you look at my butt crack. And then this is the real move that I just thought of today, Jay. I want to share something special with you. Literally before we had our call, I went to the dollar store with my wife with the mission of finding something like this. Okay, now let me describe to you why this is so important. This boy slides onto my desk, right, as I'm working, and while I'm sanding, I can rub my sanding sponges or my glass file against this to dust it off as I'm working. You're welcome. $1.25 at the Dollar Tree.
This man is dropping pure facts.
It's for the people. I love the people. These tips are for the people, you know.
I was not expecting that, and I would have never. Mainly because I don't sand, but I would have never.
Oh man, you know, I have to tell you this. I absolutely hate surface prep, right? Like I think it is the most heinous, horrible shit in the entire universe. But like I said, I built 3 kits this week. 4 kits. And if I'm painting them, I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm going to prime it, right? Guess I don't need to sand it. Well, not so, because the other thing that I can't tolerate, because I am neurodivergent and an obsessive person, I can't handle seams. So I have to seal my seams, and if I seal my seams, I have to glue my seams. If I glue my seams, I have to sand my seams. So, being that I built something of the cursed size, I built a high grade. I'm a size queen, so I really like 1/100 and larger. 172 is awesome too, but like 1/144 is always super unsatisfying to me. And I built one of those dope Witch from Mercury kits, the Delanza, and I loved it. I had a great time building it. The engineering is really good. It was really exciting. And I'm gonna tell you, like, I was building this kit and I was thinking to myself, like, I want to go build a master grade right now, as soon as I'm done with this. And dude, that's the first model kit that I've built in 18 months. So that's just to say, like, those, if anybody's like curious as to whether or not those are good kits, they are just killer. I mean, that's the first one that I built, but I also have one of the other, not Gundam Aerial or the red one. I don't like the edgy looking suits out of that set, but like the little one that kind of looks like a ball pod with like a body. I got one of those boys in the basement. So
If you like big boys and high grades, might I recommend a Nightingale?
well, I've got one of those beautiful angels in the basement. That's look, it's in the box, and I'm just gonna say that whenever I tell anybody about Gunpla, the first thing that I show them is your Nightingale.
Oh,
Seriously, I'm like, yo, this is not what you are expecting. For real. It's like the first thing I reference, because I'm like, this is a different take on the hobby, like, we can do the Goopy Haros and stuff all we want, but that, and like the unicorn, the PG unicorn, like, super nuts.
oh boy.
That's right.
Oh boy. I'm gonna say I haven't. It's been 2 years. I love the kind comments, but I'm gonna let you know I'm gonna steal that Nightingale. I'm gonna break into your house tonight when this gets done, going in your basement, and taking the Nightingale. Just to let you know.
If you knock, I'll let you in.
No knocking. Me and the possible. We're rolling up.
That's right. It's as a goblin, that's the way. Are you sure you didn't become like an ogre like Shrek when you moved to the forest? Because that kind of is Shrek tendencies. I watched Shrek the Third last night. Shout out Shrek. And those are some ogre tendencies you're showing over there.
Me, the boys, the possums. We're sneaking in. We're finding a way in, whether it be through an attic, a basement, a window that's not locked. We're rolling in.
Following somebody inside, but you're not gonna knock.
Nope.
Okay then.
No,
I'll leave the front door unlocked then.
Okay.
It's all yours. I mean, if you want to come all the way out here to the Wild Wild West and find out what's going on out here and to steal my Nightingale, go ahead, dude. You can. I won't stop you.
Jason takes Manhattan, but if John one takes the mid of the states and the country, I'm gonna go on it.
They call it the Midwest.
Area.
John, they call it the Midwest.
So I didn't pass geography.
Pretty well established.
Take that part of the country. Nothing exists out of New England. Minnesota's a lie. It's a Midwest.
Minnesota is a lie.
Minnesota doesn't exist. It's just an extension of Canada.
Yeah, it's South Canada. Yeah.
Yep. But we got like how many people in that area? Big a ton. I'm gonna break in all these houses. Y'all ain't gonna know.
Just absolute goblin tendencies over here.
Yep. I got a degree in crime. We're good.
John Lynn and the Possum Family Crime Band.
Possum Gang.
Possum Gang. Let's go.
Which leads us to finding things. Mainly, where do you find
transition? That was a fucked up transition.
We're getting more unhinged as the interviews go.
I'm into it. I'm here for this, dude. This just gets better and better. Let's go.
End of the year, I'm not even gonna have interviews. I'm just gonna hunt you down. I'm gonna find your LinkedIn profile.
The footage you upload is just like you talking as like with your webcam pointed at you as you're scrolling and looking at people's information on the internet.
We're just gonna start nature documenting it like in David Attenborough. First, it's
Oh.
gonna be like, we see the builder and it's actual fucking psychoanalyzing it. Unhinged.
I wouldn't have it any other way. It is such an honor.
I love it. But that does lead us to our next question of, where do you find inspiration?
Usually in the piece. I was just talking to somebody about the fact that like because I'm not like a big anime dude and I'm not familiar with a ton of the subject matter, even with the Gundam stuff, right? Like I go back and check it out if I like the kits in a lot of cases, but I'm not like a fanatic for the anime series. Fascism sucks, so there's a lot of subject matter there that I'm just kind of like, this is hard for me to chew on,
Matthew had a point though.
What's that?
Matthew had a point though.
Yeah, you're not wrong about Mafty. Mafty did have a point. I still have my Mafty sticker that you sent me. It's right over there on my wall, out of frame. But I find inspiration in the piece in a lot of cases, right? So like when I go to the store to find a kit, or if I go to the store to like look for Sofubi, I generally have a pretty strong idea of what I'm going to do with it before I leave, or before I make it to the counter. And that is, I don't know if that's how it is for a lot of people, but like I'm never like, oh man, sitting in the forest preserve looking at birds with my binoculars, like thinking to myself, I want to make a bird, right? Like I don't know what it is. It's just kind of like if I look at a piece, I can say to myself, I can see what colors I want to paint it, or I can see what direction I want to take it in, or I can imagine it in a context where I put it in a story, right? Like I make a narrative for it. Because for a really long time, I had a policy where I only did narrative pieces. I only did things that had stories attached to them. And I actually think that might still be true until the Genshin Toys stuff. Because like with Sofubi, it's a little harder to give personality to like an Ultraman villain, you know what I mean? Like some of these characters don't really have a background or anything like that, or if they do, they're so old, such old toys, or weird toys that I don't have a background for them. So it's hard with Sofubi for me to give narrative, but that's actually why I did that with my Cerulean project. Why I did like the diorama at the hot dog shop where the monsters were fighting in the parking lot, because I wanted the challenge of coming up with a narrative for that. But like I like to look at the form of something and say I could definitely do this with that, right? So I love like Wegos, like the Mechatro Wegos and the Chubus and stuff like that, because I can look at those guys and see myself turning that into something else. But I almost never do straight repaint work. Like I very seldom just paint something. And because I don't buy a model kit with the intent of not painting it. Tell that to my backlog, but when I don't ever buy something that I don't intend to paint. So
nice. I mean, it's solid. I feel that.
Sure.
I don't ever buy a thing just to have. I don't have any. Well, I lied. I have one thing that is not painted. Just one. A Macmaster Elixir, and it's just all the way over there in the very back of the shelf. Insane. Corner scene. I put baby in the corner.
Hey, that's okay.
Solid answer.
But I think that that the thing that helps with that is like, because I tend to kind of accumulate shit, as you can see from the frame in my photo. So what helps me with that is like, especially with Sofubi and with scale models and stuff, if I really want something and I don't want to paint it, I will see if somebody has something they're selling. And that's a good motivator to like support other artists too. So that's nice. Got all kinds of fun stuff over there in my case there from kits I didn't want to paint. I love buying real grades that people customize because I hate building them.
I can't do real grades. I don't fuck with it. I built one and I hated it.
It's a miserable experience. Like it's too hard. Like the scale is too small for the perfect grade level detail. Like just give me that in 1/100, you know? Like I don't think that they need to that I would describe as that's my pain scale because that hurts my fingers to build those things, you know? Like I have a Zagok, a real grade Zagok, and it's like, yo, I don't want to build those arms. Are you kidding me?
No,
Miserable, dude. No way.
I don't like it. I built one and I think it was with Strike Freedom and I didn't like it. It was too complicated for my monkey brain.
For possum brain.
It's too complicated for my possum brain. I looked at the manual, like, it was the same fucking thickness I built, like, unicorn manual. I'm not about it.
Too much work.
But, like, I just want to paint it. And I didn't even end up painting it, I just scrapped it down for parts.
That's a
Like,
bummer.
I couldn't. It's too small.
Oh
Just
well.
picture, like, breaking it down
Oh well.
and, like, putting it on the alligator clips. But, speaking of building,
Mm.
and speaking of building things we dislike and we like, what's your favorite time of the day to create?
I really like working in the mornings. Um, and early in the afternoon, which is a little hard with work and stuff like that. Like I'm not the kind of guy who wants to like fuck around at work, but I also am the kind of dude who does need like my Pomodoro break, right? Now, are you familiar with the Pomodoro method? So it's when you work for like a specific amount of time and then you take a specific amount of time break, right? So it's not like, oh, I'm going to work 4 hours and take an hour lunch break. It's usually work for 25 minutes, take a 10-minute break. And the way that and there's a bunch of like cool YouTube like work with me body doubling like that's really big in the ND community right now is like those body doubling videos to like be able. Are you unfamiliar with that?
I'm unfamiliar. Oh my god.
It's pretty
My
cool.
work.
I really like it. It's a sort of thing where it's like someone will put their webcam on them and like stream like if they're a DJ or whatever, and they'll like do house chores or whatever with like an egg timer, looking like a kitchen timer, and it'll like every 25 minutes it'll buzz and they'll go, okay, time to get up and go make a cup of coffee. Okay, time to get up and go outside. You know, time to go for a 10-minute walk. And they take their camera. It's real time, so it's like a 3-hour video on YouTube. I mean, it's the sort of thing that's very specific to folks like me who parallel play is like a really effective way to get me to do my own stuff. Like one thing that my wife and I do all the time is like she'll grab her Switch and I will play something on my PS5 or I'll grab something and start painting something or I'll work on a project that I'm working on because I don't want to give myself permission to do that stuff if I'm supposed to be sitting here with my partner, right? Like and it just makes it really easy for us to both kind of like have fun. So I like to do like if I'm working throughout the day, like I've been onboarding lately for this job, and like between sessions of that where it's like self-serve stuff and you're reading and learning stuff, I like to go sit down for 10 minutes and just work on the kit for 15 minutes at a time, you know, or like make a cup of coffee and do that. So the body doubling stuff on YouTube, especially if it's Pomodoro body doubling, is great, but I like to do 50-minute sessions with 10-minute breaks, and I really like working in the mornings. What's that?
I don't think that would work for me because, like, one thing that my ADHD did not like is constant hobby interruptions. Like,
Well,
I hate it
sure.
because I'll sit down at the bench and then something will pop up and I have to do it, and I get, like, endlessly frustrated with it
Mhm.
because my mind needs to focus. And it was like this in school when I was doing schoolwork. Because I had this one teacher who was notorious for interrupting. And, like, I started working and suddenly it's something he wants to show us on the board, and then you can go back to work and it's something he's showing us on the board, and then you can. And I'm like, no, I need my focus. And I kind of learned that in college because I don't drive. So waiting, doing things in between, like, I might have 4 hours between lectures. So I don't have anything to do. I can't really walk anywhere. So I'll go in the library and I'll find like the quietest spot and like that uninterruption to do things. Like, I don't have somebody coming up, hey, you need to do laundry. I don't have somebody coming up saying, hey, I need to show you that. You just sit down. Which, it can iffy with my hyperfixation. Because sometimes I'll get work done, and sometimes I'll end up spending 5 hours watching Chernobyl videos. More specifically about the Medusa foot. I'm not saying it happened today, but I'm just saying it happened. It happened. Back when we were late to starting the interview, so I was scooping snails and I had put on a video and I didn't realize. I'm watching like the Medusa. We're talking about the elephant foot in the middle of Chernobyl, and I'll get your message. I'm like, oh, I gotta.
Well, like, I had sent you that message at like a 552 or whatever whenever I sent it, and then I fell into a hyperfixation with this Beyblade thing, dude. You messaged me and I was like, oh, I had no idea how long passed between me sending that to you and me looking. It was 30 seconds to me, so I was like, I'm chilling, man, don't worry about it. The reason that timer thing is helpful for me, though, is because I tend to hyperfixate. I will forget to eat my lunch, or I will forget to do shit that I need to go do. And the nice thing about having those breaks is, like, it's important to, like, oh, you're at work, you need to check your email. You know what I mean? Oh, you're at work, you need to check your instant messages to see if anything came in because you're on the customer support team. You know, like, you need to check the inbox. So it reminds me to not hyper focus as I'm training for this job, because I'm not going to be able to hyper focus in this job. Like, that's going to be a challenge for me. So it's almost like I'm trying to train my brain out of that method. But when I'm just free, like it's a Sunday morning and I've got time to myself, it is my favorite thing to, like, go to the gym from 7:30 until 9, get home from the gym, take a shower, get ready for the day, go straight to the hobby desk, and then sit there until 3 in the afternoon. And I will do 14 hours of work in 4 hours if I'm uninterrupted, like you. But if I remind myself to take those breaks and stuff, like, sometimes it's one of those things where, like, I'll just sit there needing to go to the bathroom for an hour. You know, like come on, man. You know, so that's why I have to have the timer thing. And the body doubling thing has made it easier for me, because there's also versions of it without those timers. It's just like someone's just like DJing from their living room, or just like I'm just doing house chores. And if you look up, it's the sound of someone else being in a room with you as if they're doing chores. It's like ASMR mics and stuff on things. It's actually kind of really great. So they're like totally different levels based on what you're looking at and stuff, like what your needs are. But I recommend it if it's the sort of thing where, like, if you like to have a video on while you're doing something and you want it to be something you're not going to hyperfixate on instead of what you're trying to do, I really recommend those.
I gotta try that out because, like, lately, especially in, like, the past year and a half, notorious hyperfixation, like, to forget to eat meals.
Yep.
So there'll be days where I'll sit down at the workbench in the morning and I'll go tonight and I'm like, I haven't had any meals. No substance.
Right? Nothing.
Yeah.
And you're like, your body needs that stuff. You know what I mean? Like we could sit here and laugh about it, but also, like, we're grown ups. We know, you know, we stay hydrated. We know our body needs that stuff.
Like, I can drink my gallon of water a day, but, like, meals.
Yeah, there's no nutrition in the water, you know. Well, except for maybe out there in the forest there is. Probably algae.
But that's the spicy nutrition. Might be algae, might be brainworms, who knows?
Might be the thing from Last of Us.
Have you
Cordyceps?
seen the show? I don't know. It's early Animal Planet. Monsters Inside of Us.
No, but I'd like to.
It's about parasites. And I don't know how you feel about that stuff. People give me some odd looks when I recommend it as a TV show, but it's like one of my favorite. Like, this person stepped on a nail. Now he has brain worms.
Yeah, no, I'm here for that. I'm a big body horror guy, so like parasites are like a huge part of that. Oh,
Like,
dude,
I
I have
just
a recommendation for you. Hang on a second. I'm gonna grab a book off my shelf here that is like a recommendation like this for you. Hang on. So, on the topic of like brain worms and stuff, Parasite Rex.
I listen to that. I love that book.
Oh, okay.
I have it in
Okay.
audiobook.
Ooh, that must be a delight.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So this is my yeah. Like I was like, oh yeah. So that makes perfect sense that you already have it. Of course you already have
I
it. You're so much cooler than me.
oh, I wouldn't say that. Like 2 months ago, I got into a really weird body horror hyperfixation work. Like things like 5 books on a bowl in a week. Then we went on to brain worms. Then it was the influenza. So it's one of those things. Weird ass
Brainworm.
hyperfixations.
I'm loving the brainworms hyper. I think I need to. I wouldn't mind it if you shared that hyperfixation with me. So like, feel free
I
to send me brainworms content.
I will like. But speaking of our next question, am I turning of cues? How do you think art is important to society?
um.
Brainworms are part of this answer.
Okay, I'll leave the
Just saying.
brainworms out. I mean, I think art's obviously pretty important to society. I think that because art always reflects like what's happening at any point in civilization, w- it will always it will always tell the story of like society at a current point, right? So like I think that like whether it's Renaissance art or like modern art or graffiti art, like during certain eras, whether that was like apartheid South African graffiti art or whatever, like it always is going to tell the story of where it's taking place, right? And the people who are experiencing whatever's happening at that point in time. So, yeah, I mean, I think that that's why it's important to society. You have to give people a voice, and I think that it's kind of people's only way of really expressing what they actually think and feel. And we know how dangerous it is when people think and feel things and can't express them, right? So like I think that the importance is pretty straightforward there, but I think that's a good thing.
That's a solid answer.
Thanks.
Quite to the point. Picasso, I like it.
Yeah.
We're getting some movies. Speaking of art and society, what motivates you to create and what burns you out?
Hmm. Well, having kind of like recently gotten remotivated and feeling kind of a little bit more myself again, I think that I'm burned out when there's no counterpoint to me being creative, and like being unemployed was a really hard time for me to be creative. I didn't want to let myself like be recreational with that. Like I felt like I almost use it as an excuse not to do it. I was pretty depressed for a while there, and I took it really hard. And like when I got laid off, and I was really hard on myself. Like I was really unkind to myself. So I didn't really give myself the luxury of like, of the creative space and stuff like that. And ultimately, I think that's because I'm motivated by I'm motivated to be creative by things in my life kind of being where they need to be and like being in place. And I don't mean like, oh, I'm gainfully employed, because there are a lot of people who are where they need to be in life without being gainfully employed. But I just mean like for my surroundings to kind of be regular and comfortable for me, and like for there not to be a whole bunch of change happening. Um, that's usually when I feel motivated to be creative, I guess. Um, and I think that for the same reason, like what burns me out from being creative is as soon as there's any kind of hustle attached to it, it ruins it immediately for me. I think that it was hard for me to agree to do Yenshin Toys with Joel because monetizing something about this hobby and selling commissions was always something I said I was never going to do. But I think it's a little different because it's a hobby to start this business with Joel, and it's a hobby to be on the frontier of something cool and interesting with a friend. So I'm allowing myself that, right? And like it lets me see it a little differently. It lets me feel a little bit more confident about the fact that I'm selling stuff that I made. But I remember when I was building Gunpla really heavily, and I was churning out a ton of finished pieces, I would say. And I would say that my quality, like the quality of my work, was improving pretty swiftly in that period of time because I was surrounded by really good peers and like folks who really wanted to teach me a lot, and folks who I was open to feedback, because everything else in my life was, like I said, when I'm motivated is when everything in my life is like in the place where it needs to be. Like I have a routine in place, things are the same for me day to day. Like I don't like a lot of change in my personal life. And when I had a lot of regularity of that stuff in the hobby at that point, I had opportunities to do some partnerships and appearance, not appearance things like this, right? Like where like folks wanted to talk to me or cared about my work, or wanted me to do a shop build or wanted me to do a commission or whatever. And I really retracted really quickly from that. Like it felt really icky to me because this has been such a refuge from my day-to-day life that I never wanted anything to make me feel like it would feel not like that. Like it has been such a way for me to be creative completely unhinged, like no railings, no walls, do whatever I want to do with it, take it wherever I want to go, delight people with surprise, like that, well, I hope so, but like I always like to do something outside the box and different and like to show my imagination. And I think that like I am less motivated to be imaginative when it's not for the right reasons, right? Like when it's not just to be creative for the sake of the exercise of being creative, the critical thinking exercise of what can I turn this into. And that's the same reason that I don't like a straight build, right? Because there's no challenge to that for me. It's just I'm waiting to be done. It's Legos.
Yeah, I feel that. Solid. I mean, I get it. Like, there's something narcotic. I don't want to say narcotic, but narcotic. There's something weird like that when your hobby becomes the hustle.
Yeah.
And like, I kind of felt at some point toward the end of like 2021 where I started feeling that, especially like the commissions and stuff and the store, because we're at a point where I was putting out 6 or 7 shirts a week, and the commissions, and I got scanned out of that Jupiter commission. The guy never paid. That's why I still
What?
have it. That was that that took a lot of work, and he had commissioned me before, so I'm thinking it's no biggie. And he straight up ghosted. He blocked. He he had initially told me he's like, I have financial issues, and I'm like, okay, I'll wait till your payday. Gave it a few weeks. I messaged him. He told me the same thing again. I waited a bit, told him the same thing, asked again, and I'm like, hey, I can do half payments. We can do installments. And then he did not read the message, and he straight blocked, and that took like a good 24, 25 hours of work into it. Believe it or not, for that little thing.
I believe it.
Just because planets are difficult. But it's turning it into a hustle is exhausting. And I feel like to a point a lot of people do it for the clout.
Yeah.
And at the beginning it was really excited because I'm like, oh, I got all these neat people. They like my stuff and they're doing this and they're paying attention, and that's when I don't want to say it burned out, but there's been a slowing down of how much work I put out.
Sure.
And I don't want to say it's heartbreaking, and I don't want to say like I'm terribly upset about it. But a lot of these same people who followed me during that trend, when I started doing the weird builds, dropped off. And the support is not the same as it was when they were more clean and they were more, they were out of the box, but they were still traditional in a sense.
Sure.
That shit blows. I hate the fucking hustle life. I just want to be two frogs, a frog and a toad, chilling, eating
toading it up.
pastries. Frog and toad. That's what I want from my life.
Yeah. I gotcha. I mean, I feel the same way, right? It's like there's something that a lot of people don't realize about me, and that's that I almost never take or post photos of my work ever. Um, the stuff that I've posted on my pages or that's on my profiles, I think I have that's maybe 35% of stuff that I've ever painted. I just paint stuff and give it to people, or I paint stuff and put it on a shelf in my house because I like it, or I paint it and give it to my parents. You know what I mean? Like I do it because I like to do it, and I don't do it so that more people will follow my Instagram profile, because my Instagram profile is not a toy painting profile. It's just my personal Instagram profile, and I think that's one thing that a lot of people misunderstand about me is like there's kind of no mask with me. You know what I mean? Is like it's exactly what it looks like on the box. I play music, and I have a dog, and I paint toys, and that's what I like to do, and that's what I care about, and I give people a window into that, but that doesn't mean that I even share everything that I do, because I think that part of it makes it feel like a hustle to me. Like I don't enjoy taking photos of toys. I really get anxious about it because I have friends who are magnificent at it, like Joel. I have friends who are professional toy photographers. So the idea of me sitting there to take pictures of my toys, to just post them on my Instagram so 37 people can like it, like that's not why I painted it. Fuck that. Like no, I'll show you if you come to my house.
Yeah, I mean, y'all see it when I stream, but that's in the backdrop.
Right?
I only film now because I run out of room most of the time. When I have
Sure.
those big bio drops, it just took them out of room. And
I mean, I should probably do that. To be honest with you, I think that folks would probably want to buy stuff if I listed it. But I don't clear coat everything, and like I don't put a top coat on everything I make, and sometimes I forget to do that stuff, and I get really self-conscious that I'd be selling somebody something that doesn't last forever. Like yeah, and as an artist, like that feels like a napkin sketch versus like a painting, you know? So to me, it just kind of feels like I don't know, and I also feel uncomfortable putting prices on my work because I
Like
feel like it
I
should be pay what you want.
I feel the whole hardness on the price, but like for me, so when I watched Annihilation and I read Annihilation, that shit was like a life changer, and it really did change how I thought about art because I'm at that point now, and I'm like my art is not permanent. It is not going to last. You get what you get. You enjoy it when you get it. And when it annihilates, it annihilates. That's feasible. I have no qualms about painting over an old kid now or doing something. It's evolution.
That's a good way of looking at it. You know, I love that work too. I love that whole series. That's a really cool way of looking at that, right? I mean, for the record, my Haro is right, not there, but in the case there, you know, you can't quite see it. It's behind the light. The Haro is behind the light, but there's a couple things that hang painted. Shout out to Cultworks. You could barely see the Haro. Hang on. Yeah, there's my J Haro. Hang on, I'll turn the light so that you actually can see it. But um, yeah, I bought this one from you when we first met.
E.
Yeah. But you know, I like the outlook of that, right? Because it's an unfair amount of pressure to put on yourself to expect that, like, you know what, this is gonna last forever, and I have to make some archival shit. Like, yo, I'm painting toys, but also I know exactly how terrible people can be, right? So like, I don't know.
I honestly, the last few months have been like a hobby game changer because I ditched the store. I don't need that. The only reason I have a Patreon right now is because it costs money to run a blog. Believe it or not, the
Sure.
money I have to pay for a fucking domain website is stupid. And like WordPress to get like the cool little add-ons, you gotta pay for that shit. And that's what I do. I do it for a blog now, just because I like writing my weird shit and people just we go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, I think that if you don't want to make videos, don't start a YouTube channel. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't want to take pictures of your toys, don't. You don't want to sell it, don't sell it. And if you're uncomfortable pricing it, make it pay what you want. But if you're not comfortable with that, choose a price, right? Like have a little bit of dignity, you know, and kind of like advocate for yourself. Like do what you say you're going to do. If you say I don't want to charge people for my art, make it pay what you want. So that means I have to decide, you know, I have to figure it out. Like Joel and I were talking about that with the Yenshin Toys stuff. It's like, how do we want to price this? And I said, you know, brother, I need you to help me out with this because I don't do a ton of commission work. And he helped. He was very helpful for helping me understand what I needed to do there. But, you know, I humble myself in that situation and just ask for the help.
I feel that, and I mean that's all how we define ourselves as artists.
Wow, you are just so elegant, Jay.
Which
Which
plus
brings you to your next question.
we define us as an artist.
um,
Just rolling in punches today.
I'm gonna. This is a very short answer. If you're having fun, it was a success.
My God.
Um, and I would, I guess, to make it a little bit more robust, if you're having fun and it's a completed work, it's a success.
I love it.
And as an artist, not as a piece, I would say if you're having fun with what you're doing, then you're successful. Um, because you can't measure it any other way, right? Like there's just every single one of us has a favorite artist who needs to be rich and isn't.
Yep.
So
I mean, I'd love to see all you guys in MoMA. But
yeah,
unfortunately, art is also extremely elitist and a bunch of fucking bullshit. Art museums are, at least.
yeah. Put Big V Rowan in the MoMA.
Yeah, like
Shout out Tino. Shout out Valentino Roman.
I
Put
don't want a
Tino in there,
superpower
Romo.
anymore. Put a Tina.
Yeah, mecha genre in the MoMA, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, let's
Not
go.
Joel. He's too grimy for MoMA.
No.
Put Joel in the Field Museum.
We can put him in the alley. Just like when you walk it in, they're Joel. Right.
This isn't their episode. They can do an interview if they want. What's the next question?
Okay, next question. Speaking of art, how this whole interview is art. Does art help you in other areas of your life?
Yeah, for sure. It's like massive for my mental health for sure. Um, it's I gotta say that like I knew that when I started this new job, if I had not also started to like establish a hobby streak, like like you know how sometimes with ADHD we do task stacking to be like, okay, I'm gonna do
Yeah.
this and this and this and this and this, like all these related things, and like knock all these dominoes down at once and get that major dopamine release. Um, it
And
it
then
kind of yeah, it kind of feels like that, right? So like I think that for me, establishing one routine is hard for me. It's like really challenging, and it takes me like a full month. And I'm really routine oriented, so I'm very depressed when I don't have regular routines in my life. And up until recently, the only real routine I had in my life was go to the gym every morning.
yeah.
And it was incredibly important that I maintain that, right? So starting the new job, um, I wanted to keep my gym routine because that was something to anchor it in. Um, so I have to get up really early to do that now, and that's okay because to me, I'm like doing myself the favor of having one established routine in place while I'm trying to build a couple more. Hey, that's good, right? That gives me confidence. I can do this. So I'm trying to build the routine of like getting good with this job and like having good timing and like being timely, you know, clock in, clock out because it's hourly. It's something different for me. You know, I need to make sure that I stay on top of that stuff. As somebody with ADHD, it can be hard for me to be timely. Um, and so, as a result of that, I knew that if I also built the hobby streak, like started to work on a daily hobby streak, it would be easier for me to do both of those things if I did both of them at once. And that's because I feel like more motivated to do brainy stuff if I had 35 minutes at least to do art today. And also, I feel more creative if I can step away from a nice, rigorous, consistent routine and enjoy a little bit of hobby time to kind of like do some mental floss. You know what I mean? Like that's like some brain mouthwash. Get the brain worms out. You know, flush today's brain worms down the toilet.
We have our own
Um,
friends.
but that's you know like it really helps with that, and it helps with the mental health for sure because you know I think that like I said, when I was depressed, I didn't want to let myself be creative and have fun. I was avoidant of it, and ultimately, you know, I'd look at a toy and I just go, I'm not going to prime this. I don't care. You know, I'd start something and just abandon it. I abandoned more projects during that period of time than anything else. So it impacts my ability to kind of be a functioning human being in more ways than I realized because I wasn't creative for a really long time. I didn't really have a creative outlet for a long time. So, you know, it's nice to have it back for sure.
Solid quality answer. I dig it. I really do. It's a fun interview.
I'm glad.
We're having a ball.
I'm having fun.
Speaking of art, we're just gonna do this every single fucking week.
I like
Try
it.
to transition.
She has a format.
I have zero transitioning skills.
I hadn't picked up on that.
Sometimes, like, especially in like work and stuff, it'll get awkward because we'll be talking and then suddenly we need to go to the next topic, and I'll like just abruptly shut down that topic to move on. Like, okay, yeah, we're talking about this, but we're talking about this now. Just
Hey,
because we.
somebody's got to change the subject, right?
And then, like, the penguins were escaping the zoo, my mind wanders. We're going.
Yeah, we need to stay on, the brainworms.
Let's see. Brainworms. Right. How do you develop your art skills?
Hmm. Mostly through practice. I think that like just paying attention to what other folks are doing, asking questions, being curious. If I want to work on a new tool or a new technique or a new style or something like that, I do a lot of homework. I mentioned that like Joel explained to me that Sofubi is free. Sofubi, like people used to say Gunpla is freedom, like that goofy shit, like that was the whole thing, and that whole meme came about. But Sofubi really is freedom with an airbrush, because like when I tried to ask Joel, who like knows a thing or two about a thing or two, he gave me the same answer that like other people in the toy community, like Ragnar Squad and like even like Wonder Goblin type people, seem to have about things. And like there's not really a specific way to approach that hobby. Is like if you're trying to wonder how do I approach this, like aesthetically, what's the aesthetics, like nature or style of this medium, you're coming at it from the wrong angle. Your pants are too tight, like it's a weird look, because the idea is like this is outsider stuff, so like have fun with it in the first place. This is where the goofy kids hang out, so um I think that like learning to be free with it and like watching how other people are free with it is how I develop my skills in a lot of cases, because I'll pay attention to like I'll overfixate on the way that someone's holding a paintbrush and think that like that's the angle that I need to hold it at while I'm watching the YouTube video. And then I realize like no, that's just how that dude's hand is shaped. So
Yeah.
it's I think like people like Phil and Joel and Brandon, a lot of the other people that we know mutually, help me understand that like it's a lot less about the technique and a lot more about the approach. So I don't know. I don't know if that's a real answer to your question, but
Sometimes it's not about the journey, it's about the friends we make along the way.
it always is don't be yes to be, don't be to be about that.
Yes. Alright,
Speaking of,
speaking of change, how has your style changed over time?
um, I was really heavy-handed earlier on. I think that I learned finesse from dudes like Salty Robot. Shout out my mentor, the Salty Robot. But I learned how to how to have restraint and how to show a little bit of grace, I guess. I was a very disrespectful weatherer earlier on in my painting career. Um, Paint on Plastic was a really good resource for me to kind of like realize um, environmentally appropriate weathering, and like not just in scale weathering, because I am, as everybody knows about me, the first thing that I will do is divert the scale of whatever I'm working on. Like I like to mess with scale. I like to do mixed scale and fucked scale. I see it as like that's another toy for me to play with, and it's one of my favorite things to play with. Um, but like I think that the way that my style has changed the most is probably the degree to which I have restraint with my weathering and the zaniness that I try that I try to add to it, because I kind of went from like what can I do with this and turn it into to like what have I never seen anybody do with this hobby before, right? And like that's why I tell people a lot of times that like you're a big inspiration for that, right? Is like I'm now looking for inspiration in completely different areas, like I'm not looking at like the clean paint Gunpla YouTube channel high production value stock music B-roll channels anymore for my inspiration. You know, like I'm looking to people like you and like some of these crazy Lego mock builders and like graffiti artists and fucking skateboarders and stuff. Like I look to different places for inspiration now because now I know I can get that low hanging fruit in the same places where I go to get the crazy fruit, right? So like now I know how to reach the crazy fruit and also get some of the low hanging fruit along the way, right? So yeah, I guess I know how to be. Not that you see it in my work very regularly, but I know how to exercise restraint better. Um, I don't like to dial it back for people. Like I don't like to like if someone tells me that I overweathered something, you better believe the next thing I do is going to be like literally covered in shit, you know.
You know what?
So
Leave it outside. We'll actually weather it. Let
hey,
that
yo,
winter
like I
take
mean,
over.
I've definitely thought about a lot of that type of stuff. You know what I mean? Like I want to do a cement piece this year. I want to see if I can make something out of cement and leave it outside for a year and put some chia seeds and shit in it. You know what I mean? Like do some crazy like
I'm down.
eco punk shit. You know, I'm trying to think of something different. You know, like I'm always on some different shit. So that's kind of the thing that has been the through line through the work is I'm always on some other shit. But I think the degree to which I'm on some other shit now and the level of weathering effects that I put on my work have changed. And I like playing with scale a lot more now. Like I'm a lot more confident with like blowing out scale, I think.
Crazy how environmental facts play into things.
Isn't it just?
You know, you know what's interesting and something I want to ask you. Is there a specific environment or material that's crucial to your work?
Um hmm. An environment.
I had to sneak that one in there.
I like this. I like this one. I think that uh yes, there is an environment to my work. I think that I'm answering the question a little differently than how you meant it, but I think that that's going to be fun for you. So,
Okay.
I think that what you meant, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, is being in a specific environment in some cases more conducive to my work than others.
We can roll with it like that, yeah.
Well, that's not the way that I was going to plan on answering it.
Oh, that's okay. Answer whatever way you want. I don't care.
So I would say that like again, my work I like for everything that I do to feel lived in. Like even if it's kaiju stuff, even if it's like monsters, I like them to look like they this isn't just a painted toy. Like it's from a thing. There's context, there's world building, you know. Um and I think that that is an environmental tone that always exists in my work, no matter what it is, whether it's a Maschinen Krieger thing or a Zoid or what. Um, I want to make it look like there's context for the thing, whether it's a base for the miniature, you know, or weathering to the Zoid or whatever, or oil stains or whatever. Um, and in terms of material that's consistent in my work, like material that's crucial to what I do think that I don't think I've ever made anything that wasn't some kind of plastic. Um, you know, like I've done like crafty stuff. Like I made my mom a wreath for her birthday for Easter. That was one of those DIY painted things from Michaels. But like I can't think of. I think that plastic is like an incredibly important through line in my work. I would say that. I'm not comfortable with paper and pencil. I'm not comfortable with paint and a watercolor pad. I'm not comfortable with an easel. I do think that this is the material that I'm most comfortable working with, whether it's soft vinyl and Sofubi or Bandai plastics or cursed Kotobukiya plastics or, you know, whatever it is. These horrific, this badass Julio. This is funny. Speaking of materials that I don't like, Julio actually. This I think he painted one of these heavy arms busts from Loot Box Plus, and I think that's where I saw this. I'm sorry, Titan 2 bust from Loot Box Plus, um, and it's 3D printed. And I bought this a couple of years ago. I think he might have done it for Cerulean too. Like it's been a minute since he did this, but I finally dusted this off, and it might have been even before he did his rhinoceros or something like that. I'm not sure, but it definitely, I want to say Julio painted this. But I loved it, and I bought one, and I finally started piecing it together, and it's that like heinous 3D printed resin that you need like a respirator and goggles and a fucking hazmat suit to sand, and that's like, yo, I don't have any of the materials to build this thing. This is just going to stay unbuilt forever. I might as well send it to Logan so we can have some freaking South Carolina build it, and you know, somebody with 3 arms will build it for me down there. I don't know.
A lot of 3-arm folks down there.
Hey, you know, dude, there's some mutants down there. He'll be the first to tell you.
The southern you get, the weirder it gets.
That's right.
Oh boy. So
just like those people from the Poconos.
Yeah. We know plastic is a big factor into what you do. But what artists influence you? What's your biggest artist influences?
So there's a piece on my wall right here that's from my favorite artist. We lost him this year to cancer. His name is Justin Bartlett. He went by Ubercult, and he was one of the most profound artists in my life. He's like a lowbrow metal dude. Did a lot of cool album art for just the hardest metal bands. But like he was a special dude, and I had the chance to meet him right before he announced that he was diagnosed with colon cancer, with colorectal cancer, and his work was I bought that print from him. He signed it for me, and I got to I was emotional about it because there was like a gallery opening in Logan Square that the folks over at, I want to say, Public Works maybe put together, and it was called You Will Die. You know, like a Memento Mori vibe. And so like Justin Bartlett was there, and he spoke, and it was a real honor to meet him. He's a profound impact on my work, everything that I do, musically, lyrically, for stuff that I try to do musically. He's amazing. I'm also a big John Waters fan. You can see that you can't quite make it out, but I've got the cover of Town and Country that John Waters, the film director, is on back there. I'm a big fan of the filth, like the goofy, weird, filthy universes that he creates, and kind of the fun he knows how to have, and the irreverent silliness that he allows people to, or that he motivates people to have through his work. Let's see what else is in here that I can reference directly. One huge artist in our community, a toy painter in our community that I'm really inspired by, is Heng. Cultworks is his kind of handle, and Heng is like a really big proponent for kit bashing. He's like the wizard of kit bashing, in my opinion. He's the VFX Viper of kit bashing. Absolutely savage with it, and he's an awesome Asian cowboy who is like a Maschinen Krieger beast. Does a lot of Votem's work, and like a lot of like retro suits, but he writes articles for Zimmerit and stuff like that that really inspire me in this hobby a lot. Um, I learned a lot of my restraint in my weathering from him and Salty Robot. And Salty Robot, honestly, he's gonna he's gonna be embarrassed that I did this here, but honestly, I don't think there's a single person in this community who inspires me more from day to day than that guy. He is my hero. He is my mentor. He saved me.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any better than that guy. I'm getting emotional just talking about him. And Cerulean Project is the single most important thing in my adult life, that other than my wife and my dog.
Hmm.
It is there for us in exactly the way that we need for it to be. It is accomplishing the mission that he set it out for, and I am really, really stoked that I'm involved in the Team Cerulean stuff this year, because I'm helping him and Joel with the book this year and the actual like the design work of the book. He's such a saint that he did all this work on his own the past few years, and finally, dude, I don't either, but I'm glad that he finally broke us off a little bit and isn't trying to chew it all on his own now. And also, I would say another dude from our community who I think is a talent that always has something to say, and it's always really nuanced and really there's something precious about his work, is Bastian. He 8th MS Studio or 08th Studio. I get confused with it sometimes because it's numbers and it's like a Gundam reference. I'll make sure that John Lynn links it properly here. 8th Gunpla Studio, I believe, is his handle. But he is just does really beautiful work. It's very nuanced. It's very, like, in a lot of cases, it's very narrative, and he's a very mild person and he's very kind. And I like the stories that he tells, and he's also a special person to me. So, yeah, I think that I don't know. I think that I'm inspired more by artists that are special people to me than anything else. And I think also, there's a lot of musicians who inspire my art a lot too. So I think that like there's a lot of like prolific guitar work inspires my art in a lot of cases, because um, I like the fact that like things can sound sci-fi or things can sound body horror, they can sound brutal, like they can sound like these things. So like guitarists like Alan Holdsworth is a jazz guitarist that I like a lot, and he like is like a sound like a take you to another universe type, like aliens talking guitar type sound, and then like dudes like Piggy from Voivod and Luke LeMay from Gorguts and stuff like that. That I think about that. I listen to that kind of music a lot when I work, because it's more to the atmosphere, right? Is like I like to listen to music that sounds like the atmosphere that is the piece that I'm working on when I'm in it, because I want to be up to my ass in it. I create the vibe. I really do. Like I will make a playlist that sounds like dystopian sci-fi death metal if I want to do a Warhammer mech, dismembering things. Like I do that because I want take me there, So I would say that the music stuff goes there for sure.
I do the same thing. I have a whole playlist when I'm working on the Four Horsemen build that me, Pabs, and the guys have been doing for the last few years. I don't think any of us have finished. I just took her off the shelf for the first time in like 2 years. But I have a playlist, and like it's nothing spectacular.
But it's your playlist.
But it's like War Pigs. It's Black Blade. It's Blood Ceremony. And it's all that, and it's all nothing but like music you would commit war crimes
That's right. That's exactly right. Oh, by the way, John Lynn, I want to let you know. I don't know if you knew about this, but T Pain recently released a new album. It's a covers album, and the last track is a cover of War Pigs, and you would enjoy it very much. You would enjoy it very much. It beats ass. Like it's T Pain is sick. T Pain rules. Like that dude is such an insane musician, but like I'm telling you,
It,
it's worth it.
very vocalizations he does is like very auto tunes in war.
You know exactly it's what it says on the box, Jay. It's what it says on the box. The, the instruction manual is a fortune cookie line, right? T Pain covering War Pigs.
You
It's a haiku. The instruction manual is a haiku.
That's gonna be my hyperfixation as soon as we get done with this.
I can't wait to hear what you think about it.
It's just me listening to T Pain sing
On
about
repeat.
wars and the governmental figures behind.
Just with War Pigs on repeat.
I would love. I'd love to know how he picked that one. Like
I mean, he was probably like, this song fucks.
like he woke up one day and he's like, "Fuck it, Black Sabbath, we're doing War Pigs, Ozzy, let's go."
Well, think about this. Just entertain me here for a second. T Pain, even with his auto tune nonsense, has that kind of that kind of zone, that range in his voice. That's
Yeah.
Ozzy, baby. That's Ozzy, baby. That's No More Tears. That's Mama, I'm Coming Home.
Can we see Ozzy cover T Pain now?
I would not want that at all.
Ozzy Osbourne, buy you a drink. Let's go.
Ozzy Osbourne, I'm on a boat.
Let's go.
Let's go.
People. Let's do
Black
this.
Sabbath, I'm on a boat.
Let's do this.
Oh my
I
god.
don't know who I need to contact to make it happen, but we
This
need
is
Ozzy
brilliant.
Osbourne to cover T Pain. Like,
This is absolutely brilliant.
we need to complete the saga. It's restorative. It'll reverse climate change. It'll fix all the problems in the universe.
It'll feed the hungry, dude. I'm ready for it. Let's go.
Just the mental.
Imagine the music video.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm not. This is cursed. But oddly, the T-Pain cover of War Pigs is not cursed.
Oh boy. You don't.
I would
you
love
don't
to
know.
see like an Instagram live react, like a Jay react. Dude, can we get a Johnlin reacts night
We could do it at the end
for
of
the
this.
Patreon tier? That's the new move. You do an episode of the blog where Johnlin reacts to things that Patreon send her.
Yes. We can do. We can start this at the end of this interview. We will
I
listen.
love it.
to
This is gonna be
T-Pain War Pigs.
amazing.
All right, let's go through this because I want to know now. How did you get into Sofubi? What's your favorite and least favorite thing about it?
I got into it. I got into it because I'm kind of just a Godzilla fanatic, and it was pretty natural. I had a bunch of Safubi toys without realizing that there was a world where people customized them, and like ultimately, what ended up happening is I'd like look on Instagram for those characters and see customs of them, but there's not like a ton of visibility to like Safubi customs right now. It's not a huge medium. There's not a ton to it. I learned a lot more about it from like I want to say it's called like the Safubi Show or something like that. Like there's like a YouTube channel that's like very very elementary named, and very early on I would watch it and there's just like 2 hour long episodes of conversations like this of people in the community, and they would just kind of like talk to people who paint things like very early on I found like obviously Joel was into Safubi, so that was an easy like Instagram follow that fed it to me in my feed. You know what I mean? Where I'd kind of like see people like him start to show up in my feed. But what really kind of kicked it off and kind of started putting more artists in front of me was when I started following dudes like Ragnar Squad, who is a toy painter or a toy maker and a painter who's part of Last Bastion Studios, and they make like the Ragnar toys and the Luchador toys. And meeting Chris from Beyond Effects at MagFest one year. He's like an independent toy designer who's like really new and like really fresh in the industry, and following people like Candy Bolton and like the Kaiju Sommelier was my entry into people customizing these toys in a real way. Kaiju Sommelier was probably the one that I gravitated to the most and I learned the most through just kind of like looking at his content, like the places where he existed online. My favorite thing about Sofubi is that it's wild. It feels like it's so not for like if you don't like it, it is so lame to you. Like there's no in between where you're like, oh, this is fine, right? Like it's like this is corny, right? Like these are unposable, cheesy looking, corny Godzilla monster, Ultraman, like Mighty Morphin Power Ranger bad guy level designs. You know, some of them are really silly, and some of them are brilliant, like brilliant designs by incredible designers who are like really pushing the boundaries and coming up with like cool, awesome monster designs. So I think that like my favorite thing about it is how wild it is. My least favorite thing about it is how inherently expensive of a hobby it is, because soft vinyl toys are hard to produce. And like vinyl paints are hard to produce in a way in the US that you can sell them because they're very toxic. And
Yeah.
you know, to like use the optimal tools to like something that I personally would really love to do is like it'd be really cool to learn how to paint some of these toys in the same way that the suit designers painted that. Like I keep mentioning the Ultraman villains and stuff. I've got books and books and books that are just photos of the costumes from Ultraman villains, and I would just love to like learn, because they would do that, right? They'd airbrush across the costume, you know, like they'd, you know, paint on their bodies or whatever. What's going on over there?
I don't. My phone started playing stuff, and I don't know why.
Get off
There you go.
TikTok.
I'm not on TikTok. That's the funniest of things.
I don't care, John. I mean, okay, so anyways, but I don't like how expensive it is inherently and how hard it is to get the access to stuff, right? Because like those paints are toxic, and like it's also a very snobby hobby because of how small it is. It loves the smell of its own farts. You know what I mean? And also because of the fact that the materials are expensive and the paints are expensive and they're toxic, that means the commissions are really expensive. You know, and that means that like if I want to buy something by a Candy Bolton or something like that, there's going to be a lottery for me to maybe be able to buy it, and that sucks sometimes. Like some of the production runs are so limited, like they can only produce so many of this vinyl toy through their whoever's they have in Hong Kong who has a vinyl pressing plant to do injection molds of toys. um, you end up basically doing a lottery for a chance to buy something that's $250 that you're going to have to paint after you spend $250 on it, right? Like that's one thing that's like very, very prohibitive about Sofubi if you're not selling customs or selling commissions on a regular basis. Is like if I want to go grab 3 Gargamel figures to paint to post online to sell, I'm spending $400 on 3 toys. And if Gunpla crowds think that PGs are expensive, it's like there is no audience crazier than a Godzilla convention, my guy. You know, like if you're trying to find like retro toys or beat up stuff, everybody's trying to screw you and charge eBay prices at toy shows and whatever. So I really don't love that aspect of it. I think that the vendors will always have an upper hand of it because it is not something that you can really like. A 3D printed Sofubi toy has to be at perfect smooth resolution to give you the same finish as a Sofubi toy. Like you kind of can't fake the funk, you know. Like I don't even know what kind of filament you could use for that. So, you know, it's prohibitive for sure, and I don't love that.
I feel that it seems very restrictive.
Yeah.
Any tips for people who want to get into Sofubi?
Um, Start with what's available to you, and what I mean by that is like every Target in America sells Playmates Godzilla figures. Um, Sofubi just means soft vinyl toys. So the way that I see it is like any soft vinyl toy that's not like an action figure, right? But like monster related stuff is almost like it. That's technically kaiju toys, but it's, you know, like I've got like some of the Playmates Godzilla toys are hard plastic. They're not injection molded, but I still consider that Sofubi. You know, like that's actual Sofubi. That's like vinyl Sofubi. But this, you know, this is hard action figure level plastic. This was $18 at Target, and it's 4 times bigger than anything I could get for $30 at a toy store right now that sells Sofubi toys like blanks. You know, so like what I mean when I say work with what's available to you is like it's very very easy to like go to a Target, look for a Godzilla toy, find a Rodan, find a Gigan, find whatever they have on the shelf, even the Kong versus Godzilla stuff, right? And just prime it before you paint it, because if it's an already painted toy, like just buy an already painted action figure, right? Like just don't set yourself in this position where you're like, oh, I need to buy this Gargamel figure, or I need to buy these expensive Kid Robot toys, or these art vinyl toys where you're spending 60, 70, 80, $300 on a blank toy just to paint it a bare brick level thing. You know, like this is, you're not putting it in a gallery next to a Supreme skateboard. Just paint it, you know, paint it and have fun with it. And the next main tip that I would give on it is like, I'll grab this for just a sec here. Because you don't really sand Sofubi, you know, like you kind of you wash it and then you just prime it and get going. I like to use like nature reference to get a good idea of how to work with scale for it, right? So this is a Ganera that I did. It's was part of my Cerulean project, and it's Seismic Toys Ganera, and it's a great killer figure, like really beautiful design, like fantastic quality. It took paint like absolute shit, so shame on you, Seismic, for making toys that you can't paint well. But I did like a snow crab pattern with the back of it, and I used reference of like photos of crabs and like, you know, just like nature shit like we were talking about earlier. But it really helps when you're doing something organic like this, because this is not the same as doing like Gunpla. You know, it's not like this is as tall as a building, so technically this is 1/100. You know what I mean? So like when you're thinking about it like that, think about what an animal would look like at that size, and not a warship, or not a helicopter, right? Because then your perspective is going to be off. And use a lot of like heavy contrast colors with these sorts of things, because when you're working with a lot of smooth edges, like you can see how much that pink undershell like screams against that white and orange, you know? So I don't know. Be fearless, approach it like I would. No sacred cows. If you bought it to paint it, fuck it up. Worry about it later.
Yep.
You know.
Also, could you picture a snow crab? 1/100 scale.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wait, like to like real life snow crab scale, like 1/100th of a snow crab?
My math.
Or
I'm terrible at math. You
do you
you're gonna
mean
learn
like a kaiju-sized snow crab?
kaiju side.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Take me there, dude. Let's go.
You're gonna notice that I am terrible at math. I hate when
Uh,
people ask me size references. I have no fucking idea. Don't ask me.
that's why I say all of my work is no scale. I don't all of everything I do is no scale because I failed every math class I've ever taken.
big, big crap. I, I, I just, the concept throws me. Monster crab. Not to go off topic a little, but we're going off topic a little anyways. Monterey Bay Aquarium has a live stream camera to their Japanese spider crab exhibit.
Wow. I am unsurprised that you have this information.
I found this out yesterday,
Cool.
and nothing got done because I spent the whole day
Watching them.
walking crabs. And like, oh my god, they're so fucking bizarre.
Don't forget
I-
to send me that link.
And I
I'm gonna
love
need
it
to see
because
that.
how they move and how they look is so fucking alien.
Yeah, it's so
Okay.
bizarre.
Like, because they're like 12 feet long.
Right.
Arms spread. But how they move and how they, like, just pivot and stuff, it's so fucking bizarre watching it. Like, I'm enraptured. How are you doing this, you funky little crustacean? I don't know.
It's horrific, right?
Like, it's horrific, but I can't look away. Like, I want to know your secrets. You know
It's the
something.
best worst thing I've ever seen.
Like, craziness. But enough with the crab tangents. I could go on talking about crabs all day. What do you do outside of your hobby?
I hang out with my dog and my wife and my brother-in-law, and I like to play music. Um, I like to read books. I like to carry heavy things at the gym. Not to be confused with lifting heavy things.
Yes.
I don't know. A lot of people think that I'm a big gamer, and I'm very much not. I'm gamer adjacent, I like to say, but I spend a lot of time playing guitars. Most of my time idling around the house, not choring. Fuck, I love choring. But if I'm not choring, I probably have a guitar in my hand or a book.
Speaking of guitars.
Yeah.
So you play in a band.
I do play in a
Knights
band.
of the Round,
Hmm.
if I am correct, and I am correct.
Well,
in my research.
that's correct. Singular Knight of the Round. Yes.
Rounds. I could change your band name. Just tell them how that goes. Somebody
Yeah,
else-
yeah. We'll just send out an email blast.
Just send out and put out. I'm the band manager now.
Yeah, don't ask her questions, okay? She's too important. She doesn't have time for your shit.
I want all blue M&Ms. I don't want any yellow M&Ms in the bowls. Do you feel like the band and the music you make impacts your art, like your builds and your self movies?
I do, but for kind of a weird indirect way, right? So, Night of the Round is my primary band. It's my friends out here in Northwest Indiana, and we play songs from Final Fantasy games.
Yeah.
But we play metal versions of them. And I play in a couple different bands that do video game music now. I play in one called Gunderslam and one called Mon. And the fun thing about that is that those are two different dudes who had like independent, like they'd put out music on their own, who wanted live bands, and their live bands are made up of the same people. So I'm actually in 2 different bands with the same people, which is a lot of fun there. It's really nice. It makes for cool opportunities to spend a ton of time with my buddies. But the way that it impacts my work is actually because I spend so much. Most of the events that I perform at with my bands are not like rock clubs or like metal concerts. It's like anime cons or gaming conventions, and the reason that it impacts my work a lot is obviously if you're at a gaming convention, you're surrounded by that kind of aesthetic and like the music and the visuals and the marketing materials and whatever. Or if you're at like an anime con, like you get to see all the awesome old Macross stuff on the floor that people are selling, and you get to see Artist Alley and like see the most amazing fan art, and like you're just kind of like constantly immersed in this anime art world or gaming art world. And even though I'm not somebody who plays a lot of games anymore, board games or video games, I love consuming the culture around it because it's kind of where I came from. And I don't have a lot of I really struggle to focus on playing long form video games now. I wish I had a better excuse, like maybe I don't have time for it, but that's not true. It's hard for me to enjoy something deeper than Hades right now because like I don't have, if it's not a Vivance day, I don't know that I have the attention span for a Final Fantasy 16. So it's it's cool to kind of like be able to spend my time in these environments, seeing all these vintage toys, and like it's a treasure trove for collectors, but also just for eye collection, right? Like, so if I'm just like walking around trying to get good inspiration, I might find like a manga that I've never seen before, or I might see, like, I'll flip through the Blu-rays and see if there's old Appleseed stuff I'm not familiar with, so I can just see like different mecha designs and like whatever. But it's awesome because I would say at least we probably play I would say at least quarterly at a convention, at least 4 times a year. I get like absolutely marinated in anime or video game culture, and that's really neat because it really does provide a ton of new like color combinations I never thought of, or like that's got to be the coolest thing about it, right? It's like walking down Artist Alley and just pulling out my phone and taking a picture of someone's booth because they have combinations of colors that I would have never thought to use.
Oh, yeah.
They're using lime green with teal and hot pink, and I'm like, oh, I would never do that, but like that looks so like the even like I find visual inspiration, like the ratio of how much green to pink to blue you have is something I wouldn't have thought of, so it's really easy to get the inspiration from those events. It's really fun.
I love it. I really do. You're having so much fun.
Me too. I mean, I knew that I've been really excited for this. I told my boss about it today. Seriously, like I was really excited about this. Like people asked me what I was excited for this weekend, and this is what I told them. I was like, "Yo, I can't wait to share the link with you guys," which I probably won't, but you can cut that out.
No, leaving it all in there. I don't think this isn't getting edited very much.
Yeah, they're not going to make it to 206 in this anyway, so I'm not worried about it.
I don't know. We had somebody watch all of them. They must have binged it because, like,
Good content's good content, my man.
it do be like that sometimes.
It do when you are that damn good. Master interviewist, the Howard Stern of hobby interviews.
And believe it or not, I it's such a weird thing because, like, being neurodivergent, sometimes there's a lack of people skills with communication
Affirmative.
and interacting with the neurotypicals
Oh my god.
is hard.
It sure is, dude. It sure is. It's hard out here for pimps like us.
Speaking of neurodivergent creators, we got 2 questions left. betraying
Sure.
their alpha acts. How can we motivate more neurodivergent content, English, to share their art?
Um, I think by just being open about who we are, right? I think that like everything exists on a spectrum, right? Like whether it's people's social skills or people's level of comfort being in public or people's like skill in a medium or whatever it is. And I think that like when people see, like, I wasn't really comfortable telling people that I'm neurodivergent until people that I respected were out being out there doing it, and part of that, to be honest with you, is because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't like co-opting that for them. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to be like kind of, I guess, living vicariously through somebody else, or like or maybe like maybe I was second guessing my own neurodivergence, right? Is like, am I as far on this as other people are, and it's irrelevant, right? And so I think that the point that I'm trying to make there is just like the communities that you need to have in order to feel comfortable sharing your work exist. They exist with people like you, and with people like me, and they exist with people like the Cutting Mat, and they exist with people like Build Sideways, and they exist with people like GBA. And I think that there are just like a lot of communities out there where people want to see what you're working on, and I think that it would motivate a lot of creators out there to share their work if they understood that there's kind of not really a bar. And I think that I would just remind people who are like me that, like, for instance, I guess like my biggest thing is that I trust other people's opinions over my own. That's kind of probably one of the biggest effects of my neurodivergence, right? Is like my reality sometimes is not clear, and I don't necessarily like disrealize or anything like that, but it can be hard for me to know, like, is this what it's like for you? Do you smell that? Like that type of thing, right? Like am I the only person in this world who feels like this? And I definitely trust other people's opinions more than my own, especially about myself. Um, and for that reason, it is good to show people the work that you do, because then you can contextualize the things that you have an opportunity to work on and get better at. And if the reason you're not sharing your work is because you don't know if it's at a certain caliber, or you don't know if people are going to be nice to you, or if people are going to care about the thing that you made, I think I would just remind you that, like, people care about Kanye West. You know what I mean? Like, people care about that piece of shit. So why wouldn't people care about your work? I care about it. I want to see it. And so I guess it's one of those things where, like, how unkind we can be to ourselves in a way that we don't treat others. So I think I would motivate other people out there to share their art who are neurodivergent by reminding them that there are lots of us, more of us than there are of them.
Mm-hmm.
And just because we are so tired from the systems that are created and optimized for them doesn't mean that there aren't people like you who care about the thing that you're doing. And it also doesn't mean that people who aren't like you won't care about what you're doing, right? Like, I think it's critically important that we address the fact that, like, there's a lot of conversation right now about making ND content for ND people, and people who are NT struggle to make content that people who are ND can consume effectively, or in some cases responsibly, right? But I think that we have to take a step back and remember that, like, that is how echo chambers start, and we can't just create a situation where people who have ASD, or people who have ADHD, or people who have OCD, or people who are bipolar, or people who struggle from any number of other challenges like that and are neurodivergent in any way, need to try to find people like them to communicate with, because that is just as isolating and alienating as the experience of never meeting somebody like you ever, right?
Yeah.
Having to find your people and only sharing it to them puts walls up, and you have to be willing to show it to people who aren't like you, because that's how perspective is built, right? And that's how you learn more, and that's how they will learn more about you. And it's important that people who are neurotypical give a shit, you know, and like, all it takes to be an ally is to be the dude on the Reddit thread who sticks up for somebody, you know, who sticks up for somebody on a build where you can tell that someone is like really stoked about what they did. It's just not hard to be nice to people, right? So I think there's a lot that we could do to motivate people to share their art, you know, but it starts with making sure that people know, like, just because you might be an ND person doesn't mean you're only supposed to share it with other ND people, you know, like people who aren't ND care about your work too and can be impressed by it. Because I don't like seeing content creators go just ND. I don't like that. I feel like it is defeatist, you know what I mean? And like, I appreciate what they're doing for people like me, but I also don't appreciate what they're doing to themselves in the moment. Like, it feels like an undignified thing to do sometimes, and you can tell when it's sincere and when it's not. So
I feel that. I make content for neurotypicals. It comes in long, crafty, and forms, but it's there. Last question.
let's do it.
What's it like being in a band and performing in front of an audience? What advice can you give young musicians and performing artists?
It's really cool. It's really cool, man. It feels so cool to be in a band. It feels cool for me to be in that band because that was my favorite band before I joined it, and a lot of people don't know that. I'm not an original member of their band. I went to see that band one night at like a gig where there weren't a ton of people at the show, and their bassist wasn't there that night, and I was like, hey, I noticed that there's a vacancy here, and they were like, well, as it turns out, our guy is going to have to be leaving the band, and this is our first time ever performing without him, and we're really anxious about it, and yada yada. So I just, made friends with them, and after the show we exchanged information, and that's how I joined my favorite band, right? So like, that's really what it took. Is like, I was there, I put myself in a place of opportunity, I was brave enough to introduce myself to people that became my best friends, people who I stood in their weddings, people who I love. And they were just another band, right? Like, that's it. They were one of my favorite bands, but they were just like regional at that point. It wasn't like a big deal. And they aren't like, even still now, it's not the world's biggest band. It's not like I'm in Lamb of God, So it's this thing where like, it feels really cool to be up there playing these songs that, especially with the Final Fantasy stuff, is like these songs that are so culturally relevant and songs that I cared about. Like, and specifically in the video game thing, is like, you are playing someone's absolute favorite song, and they don't just like listen to this song in their car. This is a song that's like on repeat for 14 hours when they're playing a video game. You know what I mean? Like, this is like, if you're a video game music person, it's like soundtrack fandom. You know what I mean? It's different. So that feels really cool because I'm upstage and I'm up on the stage and I'm performing people's favorite songs, and doing something that people like have never thought of anybody being able to do before. But like, because there's some people who have like, they're just blown away by the concept of it. Like, hey, I would have never thought of that. But at the same time, it's a lot of pressure being in your favorite band, and even if it's not a big deal to anybody else, it's a big deal to me because I'm up there and I'm trying to execute, like, I'm trying to be performant, and I'm trying to be the best possible person in the band. Like I want to make sure that if I'm up there, there's a reason for it, I put a lot of pressure on myself. Um, and I would just give young musicians the advice to not do that, because no one's going to do that to you. You do that to yourself, like I Jay, I've gotten to the point, like I've had to have like there are points when I'd get so anxious on stage that my forearm muscles would tense up and I'd drop my guitar pick and I'd like not be able to play. Like physically my hand would be like almost like a lockjaw, because I'm so tense, like my hand's stuck like this. And that's embarrassing, right? Is like that's silence in a song. That's the bass cuts out altogether. You're in a live concert. It's loud. The bass guitar goes out and people can tell. So there's a lot of pressure to that. And that's all self-imposed. So I think that like my advice is if you're a young musician and you want to play live, do it. If you want to try and play out, talk to the bands that are playing in your area and try to make friends, and don't be sleazy about it, and don't assume that people don't want you there, but don't assume that you deserve to be there either, right? So it's be humble and believe in yourself and be honest, and that's usually what works out. Because I think that it's really easy to do it for the wrong reasons and not have any fun with it, even if you go somewhere. So as long as you're doing it, again, as long as you're having fun, this comes back to the definition of artist success, right? Like we love a callback. Is like as long as you're having fun and you did the job, you're a successful musician. Like if you wrote a song, play it in front of somebody, see if they like it. You know what I mean? Like it's you have to be as willing to share that kind of art as you do other kinds of art, and like you also have to be willing to admit why you're doing it. If you're doing it because you want to go to different cities and play on a tour, it's going to take you a really long time to be at that stage, but I hope that you succeed in that.
Yeah.
But just have some honesty about it and be humble and have fun, and it should work out. I had so much fun, dude. What a great way to end this incredible interview.
Yeah.
2 hours, 43 minutes. Creeping for scale models. Body fucking hammer. Yenshin toys in this bitch. You know what it is.
Thank you for coming out.
Thank you for having me.
Guys, ladies, gentlemen, we are done with this interview, but go on the blog, you can read the rest. Because I know I like to read interviews. They're going to be this video transcript, they're a written transcript. You can check out the Patreon for $2 a month. You can get yourself something cool. For different tiers, you get
Johnlin Reacts.
You get Johnlin Reacts. You get content early. I'm just gonna have to start reacting to things now because I don't know how to react to that one.
You're welcome. I've introduced something new to the format. Bless the show. Bless the show.
We did it live. Let's go
home.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
We're wrapping it.